Welcome to Deutsche Math September newsletter. We're solving Algebra 1 problems, and particularly this is part 1 of 4 types of word problems. And this one we're dealing with counting objects. The cost of tickets for school is $3 for adults and $2 for students. If a total of 350 tickets was sold and $950 was collected for the play, how many tickets of each type were sold? Well, let's go on right to it and let's solve this problem. All right, so let's start with solving the problem here. Let me give you a little overview. The word problem, it seems to be generating quite a bit of problem for a lot of students. And the reason I think is that there's no systematic way to solve word problems. And in this clip, what I want you to do is introduce you to an approach that I developed for my student. It's a 4-step problem, and it's I don't want to say guarantees solve all the word problems, but sure will give you a step-by-step way to systematically work on the word problems. And the 4 steps are involved is step 1 is here, step 2 is here, step 3, and step 4. Now, when I was teaching in college level math, I always tell students, imagine this is a 10 points problem. Okay, solving this word problem is 10 points. Step 1 will be worth 3 points. Step 2 will be worth 5 points. And step 3 is 1 point. And step 4 is 1 point. Let me tell you what step 1 is. We got to set the variable. You got to know what you're solving. I'm assuming you're familiar with your algebra, pre-algebra, that you know what a variable is, and I'll show you how to use it over here to deal with your word problems. Step 2 is the hardest one. That's why it's worth 5 points. Step 2 involves you decoding the equations from the words, or in other words, is you have to translate words into equations. Step 3, once you have the equations, then you can just solve the equation. And step 4 is called a double check. I'll just put a D and a check mark here. And the reason step 2 is worth 5 points is this is where the heart of the solving word problem is. Your ability to translate words into equations is what solving word problems is all about. Now, a lot of the students skip this step, number 1 here. The reason this one is important is that if you don't have a clear picture of what the variables are, most likely you'll run into a problem doing translating because you don't have a way to grab onto the words and drag the equations out of the words. All right, let's get onto it. Let's solve this problem at hand. So we were given that we have sold 350 tickets altogether, and we gathered $950 for all of them. So let's set a variable. Bear with me for now. We'll start from the last sentence where they ask how many type of each tickets was sold. We will let letter A be number. So here is my step 1. Of course, number of tickets. So right away in my mind, I know it's a number. It's not a dollar sign. The unit for this A is a number. Number of tickets sold to adults. Okay, I'm trying to use A and here, so it's keep it simple for me to remember. Let's put S is number of tickets, and then we'll say sold to students. Okay. Now, step 1, I'll repeat here myself again. Do not skip this one because without step 1, step 2, where you're decoding or translating, becomes very difficult. You'll see in a minute why. Okay. Step 2. We were given that total, I'll write it out here, total of 350 tickets were sold. Okay, let me pick another different color here. We're literally translated here. Total of 350 tickets. That means there are some 350 tickets is equal to number of tickets we sold to adults, right over here, add number of tickets sold to students. And this become our first equation here. Okay, so from this word here, we dragged this equation out. Once again, total of 350 tickets were sold. Since we assumed in step 1 by setting up the variable that A is equal to number of tickets sold to adults and S is equal to number of tickets sold to students. Therefore, from this one sentence, total of 350 tickets were sold, we were able to drag the equation that 350 is equal to number of tickets sold to adults plus number of tickets sold to students. Now let's take a look at second sentence. I'll put it in the green. Okay. Second sentence says total of $950 were collected. Obviously, we're going to build the equation around this letter. Now let's see how we do that. Okay. $950 were collected total. So how much do we collect from the adult? Well, each adult ticket is worth $3. We were given that. And number of tickets that we, from step 1, assumed it's A. So if I gathered 10 tickets for adults, then I would have 10 times 3, which is $30. Since I gathered A tickets for adults, then each one costs $3. This gives me total amount I would gather from selling tickets to adults. As you might have guessed, for next ticket that's sold to student, each one costs $2. And how many did we sell? S. Okay, so here is the total amount we would gather from selling tickets to students. And what's the total amount when I add them up? You guessed right. It's $950. Here's our second equation. Now, as you know from learning Algebra 1, in order to solve equation with two variables, you would have two equations. We have one equation here, two equations here. Now, normally when I grade students, if they can get to this step, it's worth 5 points because they demonstrated to me that they are able to grab the equation out of words. That's what solving word problems is all about. We will move on to step number 3. Now, typically I only get 1 point, and that's not to say solving equation is not important, but solving word problem is different than solving equations. The majority of the points I give to students come from grabbing the equation out, and then they can demonstrate that they can solve the equation, which is not nearly as important as step 1 and step 2, where you demonstrate you can, and you have the ability, you know what it takes to solve word problems. Now let's move on to step number 3, and we're actually going to solve this one. All right. Let's move my blackboard down here a little bit so you can see better. Okay. All right. Let's get on to our step number 3. So the two equations we have is 350 is equal to A plus S. And the second one we have, make this one look like S instead of 5. And then we have A3. For the purpose of solving it, I'll just not writing the $sign here. A3 plus 2S is equal to 950. Now, solving an equation over here, for this particular problem, obviously, equation 1 using substitution is probably the most efficient way. We will solve for one of the variables from equation 1, and then with that expression, we'll plug into the equation 2 here to get it onto one variable, one equation. So from equation 1, we can see that 350 minus, let's say minus S. Doesn't really matter, but let's say I choose minus S equal to A. So all I did is subtracted S on both sides of this equation. If you want to see it in the word here, so here's our scratch area. 350 is equal to A plus S, and I am going to subtract S on both sides so I don't disturb my equal sign here. Okay. S cancels here, and this side we have 350 minus S is equal to A. Okay, that's the equation here. I'll tell this one as a 3. Now I'm going to substitute 3 back into equation 2. The purpose is that so that I have one variable, A is equal to 350 minus S. 350 minus S plus 2S is equal to 950. So all I did here is there's a variable A here. I rewrote A in terms of S and plugged it in here. This whole thing was my old A. The reason I want to do that now, this whole equation here, all I have is a variable S. I have one variable, one equation. I'm good to go to solve it. All right, let's proceed and let's go a little down lower so we can actually solve this. From here, what I'll do is I'll distribute it in there. I have 3 times 50. Let's do the 350 times 3. This is 10,050. And then I would have 1050 minus 3s. Sorry for this S. It looks a little curly. Plus 2s is equal to 950. I will collect those two together. Think of 3 minus 3 apples plus 2 apples, and we have minus 1 apple. Okay, let's put our 1050 here, equal to 950. Now I'm going to subtract 1050, so I move all the numbers to one side. Have minus S is equal to minus 100. So divided by minus 1, S is equal to 100. Okay. Now remember from our earlier definition, S is the number of tickets sold to, remember S for student. Okay. Since S is related to A in that A is equal to 350 minus S, we can see from there that A has to be 250. That's tickets sold to adults. All right. Now we're moving on to step number 4, which is quite important. A lot of students stop at number 3 once they get the answers and then they move on. I would like to see my students actually do a double check. The reason is that double check allows you another chance to catch any mistakes so that you can go back and correct it before you turn the test or homework in, so that you're not surprised by any mistakes that you do have. Okay. So here's the S, here's the A. Here's our total. We had calculated that S was 100 tickets, right? A is 250 tickets. Altogether, of course, we have 350, so that's checked, right? Now let's take a look at the money part. 100 tickets, each one is costing $2. So we gathered 200 over here from selling tickets to students, and 250 tickets sold to adults, and then we gathered $3 each. And earlier where I calculated this one, that's 750. If you need to run through this, you calculator, press the pause button, and you can run through this calculator on your own. So of course, total here we have 200 plus our 750, it's $200, and we gather $950 altogether. So we checked our answer. Okay, all right, have a confident day.